Hey, today is Tuesday, April the 7th. I'm so glad that you have joined me once again for today's devotion. Have you ever had a missed opportunity? We've all had missed opportunities, but more specifically, a chance that you got to meet somebody that you never dreamt that you would have this opportunity. You know, the governor, or maybe a great coach, or an author that you've always looked up to, and you had this chance, this opportunity, this small window of time to say something or to do something in that opportunity, but you blew the chance. I was 14, and I had a chance to meet and say something to one of my childhood idols. I was a big baseball fan, and growing up, most of my childhood was in the 90s, and my family had satellite TV, which meant the one team all boys pretty much in that era latched on to were the Atlanta Braves because they played on TBS, and it was the only team you could see. Well, fortunately for me, back then the Braves were really, really good, and they had this pitcher by the name of Greg Maddux, who was the best pitcher of his decade, who is now a Hall of Fame pitcher. Well, my family and I were taking a vacation out in Denver where the Braves were supposed to play the Colorado Rockies the next day. And somehow we had learned that the Braves were going to be staying in the same hotel as we were. And I was so excited about that. You know, the Braves and me staying in the same building. The Braves were playing a day game earlier that day out in Montreal, and we were told that they were expected to be flying in later that night. And so I begged my dad, just allow us to stay in the lobby until the team shows up, just so I could see them a little bit more closely. Well, the team does show up. It's about 11 p.m. and all these heroes of mine come storming in. You know, Chipper Jones and Tom Glavine and John Smoltz. And I got to see them much more closely than I typically do just by seeing them on TV. I thought I'd seen them all, and so we get on the elevator and we're getting ready to go up to our floor into our room, and then it happened. Greg Maddux walks onto our elevator. He's all alone. He doesn't have security. He's just a regular guy. And there he was. It was me, my dad, and Greg Maddux. And I'll tell you, I had about 10 seconds to try and figure out what I would do, what I would say. You know, I thought about talking about all the great games that I saw him pitch. I thought about talking about the 1995 World Series, or about how do you just pinpoint, throw your pitches to such an amazing extent. And as I was thinking, I was so nervous, pretty shy, 14-year-old kid. I didn't say a thing. Those 10 seconds, or however long they were there, and they were gone. And before I knew it, Greg Maddux was walking out of that elevator. A missed opportunity, a missed chance. Now, the gospel passage I want to read to you has another missed chance. This is not a sports star. This is not a politician. This is not someone, human being that we look up to, but this is King Herod, who has a chance to speak to the Messiah, has a chance to speak to the Savior, has a chance to, pick the heart and pick the soul of the Lord of this world, and he blows it. So our reading for today from Luke, the 23rd chapter, beginning in verse 7. Now when Pilate learned that Jesus was under Herod's jurisdiction, Pilate sent Jesus off to Herod, who was himself in Jerusalem at that time. When Herod saw Jesus, he was very glad, for he had been wanting to see him for a long time, because Herod heard about Jesus and was hoping to see him perform some miracles. He, being Herod, questioned him at some length, but Jesus gave no answer. The chief priests and the scribes stood by, vehemently accusing Jesus. Now when Herod, with his soldiers, were done with the questioning, they treated him with contempt, mocked and scorned him, and put elegant clothing on him and sent him back to Pilate. Now think about that chance. Herod had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He had the Messiah there. He had the Christ there. He had somebody that Herod had heard a lot about already. And Herod could have asked Jesus anything. He could have talked about all the complications in his life, his complicated family dynamics, his illicit marriage to his niece, Herodias, who had become bloodthirsty. He could have talked about his fascination with the Jewish faith and about this God who all the Jews were talking about. See, Herod was a Gentile, and yet he had a fascination with the true faith. He could have asked Jesus about that. He could have talked about anything going on in his life. He could have had this opportunity to connect with Jesus, and he blew it. Once he found out that Jesus would not perform these miracles, Herod wanted him to just be like a puppet and perform these kind of show miracles. Once Herod finds out that Jesus isn't going to do that, he mocks him and scorns him and sends him back to Pilate. This is Holy Week, friends of Christ. And even though we don't have Jesus face to face in our midst, we have that chance today. We have that chance, in particular, this very special and holy week. This chance to learn more from Jesus. This chance to be guided by Christ. We have this opportunity today, this very day. Don't blow it. Don't blow that chance to learn from Jesus. Don't blow that chance to have your life enriched by the Messiah, the King of the world. I want to thank you for joining me once again today. I hope your Tuesday is blessed. This is Holy Week. So try and find a chance to deepen that faith. Try to find a chance to find Christ's path and find God's will for your world. Grow in that faith. Be strengthened by God's love. Amen.